I have to say, as one of the areas that we're going to talk about, this was one of the most compelling and the most confusing. And I get it, apps are the future. But I don't think companies have really figured this out. So can you tell me what Cisco is doing that's new and different, and what you're doing that is cutting edge in the area of apps?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. In fact, of all the areas too, I think this is the most exciting and interesting, and actually, really, it leads us to the future. And the reason I say that is because we have such a huge population of our mobile devices deployed, and now what I want to make is those mobile devices even allows for even more productivity and a richer and more robust experience. So a couple things. One is what I've learned is that Gartner will support this, is that to think about kind of an enterprise app store. One of the things I'm seeing is app stores coming up, mobile app store, and then there's an app store for the sales organization. And what I'm really worried about is, just like we did on the mobile devices 5 years ago, is I feel responsible for the security of those apps on those devices. And when I start putting like my expenses in my vacation time, so HR and finance apps on those devices, I have to think about the security of them. So one of the things I stepped back a couple of years ago and said, I think what we need in Cisco is something called an enterprise app store. So for the listeners, I think that what that means and translates to is kind of like iTunes for the enterprise. As and a couple things are happening here. IT services are now being delivered and consumed differently. So instead of apps, it's going to be more about IT services. We're delivering IT services across the entire organization. Wouldn't it be interesting if we had one location, an enterprise app store, that I could download all the IT services that are relevant for me to do my job? As I come into the company, I'm a new intern, I'm a new salesperson, I'm a new whatever. Now, it's not just the access that's exciting. We actually have now created a product that we're now selling called the Cisco Prime Service Catalog, which really is the enterprise e-store. And what I love about that is it's not just the access, the look and feel and the access, which is fantastic. It really then does all the management and the orchestration layer and the provisioning and automation. So think about that for a second. Our goal is to create a bundle of apps for the new intern walking in the door. Instead of them taking a week to provision their PC and then go get the apps, they could get their PC and apps all done, all bundled together, and we're recommending them this bundle of apps, at the beginning of their internship program. The same with the new salesperson, the same with an executive that comes into the company. So one is, for me, the new aha here is I want one location where all IT services and apps are accessed, which is the Enterprise App Store. But then I want to begin to bundle them into specific use cases or personas that really make it so productive for our employees to walk in and kind of get started and working more effectively quicker.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, and I really think it's a great insight, that you're seeing these as services and groups of services for personas, for people who are doing the work, which I think gets way beyond this I've got more apps than you sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, and I think that in the enterprise, I always suggest to my teenage children that work is a bit more complicated than pictures and status, because they wonder why sometimes work is a little challenging, and it's because we have to in IT think about all the identity and all the security and all the things to protect the company's assets. So one way to do that is not have a list of 1,000 apps that you got to go filter and figure it out. But if I can somehow make it smart and intelligent and bundle those together in a way that makes sense based upon your persona and your job in the company, I think that's going to be a big advantage to us in the future.
And here's my skill testing question. If you had 3 apps, this is your desert island question. If you had 3 apps that only you could have, which ones would they be?
Well, for me, I love to track, we just have this one call that we just created. Actually, our intern group created it. It was called Cisco Maps. And what that does is it takes our entire global footprint of our buildings. And you can walk into a building, and if you're trying to find office building 483, it shows where you are and where that building is or that person is. And oh, by the way, especially with such a global company, you don't know the India facility, so walking in and finding that fairly quickly is cool. And then also, while you're walking, if you decide you're chatting, so I'm now on Jabber and I'm chatting, and I'm talking to someone, let's quickly meet, I can check to see if that conference room 2 feet away from me is available and go book that conference room and go meet the person I'm chatting with. So I think those two together and combined are pretty powerful. My third favorite one, I have to say, is Starbucks. It's nothing to do with work.